Firstly, what do I mean by a low handicap golfer? You will regularly shoot 80 or under, with your average scores being between 1 and 10 over par. Generally, you'll strike your irons well, having good control over the ball flight, and often get admiring glances and congratulations from playing partners. But you're not perfect. Whilst becoming a scratch golfer is within reach, you're not there yet. And according to the USGA, it's very hard. Only 30% of golfers achieve a handicap of 10 or below. But let's have a look at the first irons, which are going to suit pretty much everyone within this range. The Srixon ZX7 Mark II. Done, if you're French. Now, I must admit, these irons are a little bit of a grower. When I first got them, if I'm being completely honest, I kind of thought they were a bit ugly. There's lumps and ridges in places which don't really seem aesthetically pleasing. They don't have the bag appeal that some other clubs possess. However, it's here where the magic happens. You see, Srixon have made the claim about this VT sole where the turf interaction is so good that you could even hit slightly behind the ball, hit it slightly fat, and still get a good strike. Also, they said this weird ridge and bump, which they call a pure frame, dampens vibrations and is forged into the head. Now, this places 80% thicker proportion of steel behind the impact area. And I must admit, over the course of this year, I've kind of fallen in love with this club to the point where in 2025, I'm considering sticking this one in the bag. The reason that I love this club is, well, it does exactly what it says on the tin.
It does exactly what it says on the tin.
Just absolutely cuts through the turf at impact, and even on the slightly chunky ones, it does seem to fly a little bit better, but that's not all. Sam, just come here, Have a look at this divot. Just have a look at that. Perfect size. Nice depth, not too deep. You can just see it's just chopped out on the roots there of the grass. What a sight to behold. But I don't think it's the best looking iron in the world. Certainly when that sits in the bag, does that really excite me? Not hugely. It looks quite, what's the word I'm looking at? Workmanlike, like utilitarian. Is utilitarian? Functional. It doesn't feel like it's been crafted with aesthetics completely in mind, and that is absolutely fine. Like, I could get used to that sitting in the bag because, let's face it, I'm not looking at this part of the club when I'm striking shots. Behind the ball, it just looks like a nice muscle back bladey design, but it does have the cavity in the back to offer that little bit of help. It's sturdy, it's reliable, it's kind of like a concrete bridge or a Ford F-150, maybe your favorite doorstop. Like, once it's gone, you're probably gonna miss it. Okay, so let's have a look at the data on the Srixon. Now, inside, on the mat, could I really tell that much of a difference between this and the other irons? Not really. Remember, the soul of this club, and really the whole purpose, I would say, of this iron is the turf interaction. And yes, it sounds so nerdy, but boy, do I love it. Now, as you'll see with all three clubs, which I've tested very extensively in here, there are a lot of similarities. Now, these are all a 7-iron, but it was pretty consistent really throughout the set. We're going to be looking at lofts, we're going to be looking at spin rates, launch angles, and all the rest of it. Now, the ball speed on the Srixon was 127.5 miles an hour with 6,000 revs of backspin with the 7-iron. Now, that is not on the higher side, but it's not drastically low. And the actual launch angle and the carry on this 7-iron was appropriate for a bit of drop and stop. I think this is really something that you're seeing across all irons. If you want an iron which spins a lot and which really does have the maximum amount of control, that is still really only the province of a blade. Now, if you wanted a 7-iron that does spin a little bit more, the Srixon won't be the one for you. It has a loft of 32 degrees with the 7.9, and I'll throw up the full spec sheet here. Now that is a little bit on the lower side, but I would say that the performance is more than capable of catering for pretty much every handicap under 10. Remember, this video is about really finding those irons for this category. We're not looking at scratch golfers or better that might be the province of a blade or a muscleback. And really, honestly, with the technology that's out there now, even those golfers don't need to get a blade. You hear me? You feel me? Next up, we have an iron which actually looks very similar to the Srixon and yet completely different. The TaylorMade P7CB. So the cliche of beauty being in the eye of the beholder is evident here. I love the look of brushed steel, the milling and the simplicity of this design, but check this out. The Srixon and the TaylorMade actually have a similar shape, except the sole of the P7CB is more traditional. So why is the TaylorMade in the test? It feels really, really fantastic. So TaylorMade say that each of these irons undergoes 2,000 tons of pressure during the forging process to deliver the best quality steel possible. Oh, please just go in for me. One time. The tech in this head is really well hidden as well. So in the filled cavity, there's a co-forged tungsten weight to give you stability. Also, the face is very, very finely milled. As mentioned, it is subtle. It does feel absolutely fantastic. Is it quite as good through the turf as the Srixon? Maybe not, but it depends if you enjoy the slippery feeling that the Srixon has. Let's face it, the sole of these TaylorMade clubs is pretty similar to a lot of the other soles out there on the market, and it's been around for 100 years. So I think you'd be okay. So the TaylorMade in data testing performed pretty much exactly the same as the Srixon. On the course, obviously you just saw, I really enjoyed it. I love the feel of this club as well. If I was to put the TaylorMade and the Srixon together in a feel contest, I would probably say that the TaylorMade would win. If I was to put them together in a turf interaction competition, I would probably say the Srixon wins. As you'll see here, the data between the TaylorMade and the Srixon, incredibly similar. The TaylorMade has 1 degree more of loft, so you would expect it to be flying a little bit higher and with a little bit more spin. Realistically, within the data testing, I didn't see that much of a difference. So literally, both of these clubs, fantastic. And finally, we have a club which is quite literally taking over the internet and dominating here on YouTube, the Takomo 301 CB. There's a definite feeling of FOMO within the YouTube glass house because Takomo have been snapping up many people's favorite creators and signing them to club deals. So they've signed up Luke Kwon, Buster Jack, the Bryan Bros, and now they've just signed Takomo Golf. And also, Luke Kwon just used these irons to win the Creator Classic at Eastleigh. One advantage these clubs have is they are markedly cheaper than other brands in this space. The 301 CBs have a lower center of gravity, a bit more perimeter weighting, and a larger sole than the Takomo MB irons, which I've also tested. For me, they are perhaps the most exciting iron on this test. Pin eye, sign of quality ball striking. So they don't look quite as good as the TaylorMade or the Srixon behind the ball, and they feel nice when struck from the center, but maybe not from the toe or the heel. And the tech isn't actually that complicated. There's just a cut cavity behind the face, and that's about it. The reason that I really like these irons is because of the data. Here is actually where we saw the first difference. Now, it has 2 degrees more loft in the 7 iron than the Srixon, and I'll tell you what, I'll throw up at some point here all the loft comparisons just so you can have a look. Loft is something that you really need to be interested in if you're worried about spin and the amount of backspin that you're getting. Now, oddly enough, what you would expect is with a lower loft, you would expect more ball speed. But actually, the Takomo Takomo netted out really well here. You know, it was averaging at that 127 miles an hour of ball speed that I was seeing with the Srixon and the TaylorMade. But the Takomo had more spin, and it was noticeable. It was over 700 revs on average. Now, the average number is what we're looking at here over a consistent number of shots. Something that I did see on the course, but it really became apparent when I was testing these clubs out within the bay. Actually, forgiveness of the Takomo did drop off in comparison to the TaylorMade and the Srixon. So if I was striking it from the toe or the heel on the Takomo, I saw a little bit less distance and I felt just a touch more like vibration through the shaft. So I'd say the first two irons were probably a little bit better at dampening the effect of a bad strike. However, we're looking at low handicap golfers here. You know, we're talking about people who will generally strike the center of the club more often than not. And would I say the Takomo felt any worse on those shots compared to the other two irons? Absolutely not. And as you can see here in the price comparison, well, the Takomo nets out really well. And what I've tried to do here is try to show you three different types of iron within the same category, so you can try and make your mind up which one you prefer more. And of course, we have done so many more reviews on clubs on this channel. If you do need more help selecting your next set of irons, how about checking out these videos here?